From Iron Man to Spider-Man to Thor, this is all the Avengers in the MCU explained. We begin with Ant-Man. So Ant-Man's journey as an Avenger is one wild ride, and it all starts when Scott Lang steals a supersuit that can turn him down to the size of an ant. At first, it's just a way for him to get back on his feet and be a good dad. But then he gets pulled into this whole world of superheroes and villains, and things get real. He ends up fighting alongside Captain America in Civil War, but he gets caught and put under house arrest. We continue more of his story in Ant-Man and the Wasp, where we see him team up with Hope against the Ghost.
Hank, quit screwing around. You told me yourself not to screw around.
The returning point comes when he escapes from the quantum realm after Thanos snapped his fingers, and he brings the idea of time travel to the Avengers.
Way that we could enter the quantum realm at a certain point in time, but then exit the quantum realm at another point in time.
He helps them pull off the time heist, and they bring back everyone who was dusted by Thanos. And he even gets to fight in the big battle against Thanos and his army. He's a pretty epic transformation for a guy who just wanted to be a good dad. The next installment after this is Quantumania. Scott Lang and his crew get sucked into the quantum realm. His daughter grew up and even got recast, and they have to deal with all sorts of crazy creatures and a Kang variant. They also meet a returning character, MODOK, who's got a big head from the first Ant-Man film. In the end, Lang faces off against Kang the Conqueror, a seriously powerful villain who wants to conquer everything. They're able to escape, and Ant-Man is anxious about what's to come. Now Kang is no more, we await Dr. Doom. Now Black Panther, he's the king of Wakanda, hidden from the world. T'Challa's journey begins in Captain America Civil War when his father King T'Chaka is killed. He's driven by vengeance, but he also has to learn about the importance of justice and forgiveness. In Black Panther, T'Challa takes on the mantle of Black Panther, embracing his legacy and leading Wakanda into a new era. Is in Infinity War and beyond when he joins the Avengers in their fight against Thanos, fighting bravely in the Battle of Wakanda. He's one of the victims of the blip, but he's brought back in Endgame and fights alongside the Avengers in their final battle against Thanos. So Chadwick Boseman, the actor who brought Black Panther to life, passed away in 2020 after a private battle with cancer. His performance as Black Panther was a cultural phenomenon, and his legacy as an actor continues to inspire. In Black Panther Wakanda Forever, where the film honors T'Challa's legacy and deals with the loss of the character, is a powerful and emotional tribute. Now we have a new Black Panther, which I will discuss in the new Avengers section. We move into one of my favorite characters, and that is a Black Widow, aka Natasha Romanoff. She's a spy who came in from the cold. She's got a past we saw in the film Black Widow, a whole lot of issues, and some seriously fighting skills. She's not your typical superhero, but she's definitely one of the most compelling characters in the MCU. We first meet her in Iron Man 2, and she's working for S.H.I.E.L.D. She's a key member of the original team, and she proves herself to be an invaluable asset in the Battle of New York. She's forced to choose sides in Civil War, and her decision to help Captain America puts her on the run. He rejoins the team in Infinity War, where she fights bravely in Wakanda and survives the snap. Here's where things get interesting. Black Widow becomes the leader of the new Avengers, after everyone else is either dead, retired, or just too messed up to lead. In Endgame, she makes the ultimate sacrifice on Vormir to get the Soul Stone, giving her life to bring back everyone who died in the snap. It's a real tear-jerker moment.
Clint, where's Ned?
Now we move into one of the original OG superheroes, and that is Captain America, aka Steve Rogers. He's the guy who got injected with a super soldier serum and went from a kid from Brooklyn to America ass-kicking champion. He's always fighting for what's right, but he's also not afraid to bend the rules when it matters. We first meet him in Captain America the First Avenger. He's a World War II hero who gets frozen in ice for 70 years. When he wakes up, he's in a whole new world, and he's gotta figure out how to adapt. He becomes the leader of the Avengers and has to fight against his past in the Winter Soldier. It's then in Civil War where his story takes a dramatic turn. He goes head to head against Iron Man. It's a battle of ideals, and he breaks the Avengers. We then see him as he fights Thanos in Infinity War, and he's one of the last men standing in the Battle of Wakanda. In Endgame, he helps retrieve their stones and even gets to wield Mjolnir, which is a real holy shit moment.
Language!
In Endgame, he travels back in time to return the Infinity Stones, but instead of coming back to the present, he chooses to stay in the past and live a life with Peggy Carter. He returns to the present later as an old man, and he gives his shield to Sam Wilson.
No, I don't think I will.
who becomes a new Captain America. It's a powerful moment and it's a fitting end to one of the greatest heroes in the MCU. Now another captain, and that is Captain Marvel, aka Carol Danvers. She's a cosmic powerhouse. The pilot turned superhero who can fly through space and blast energy from her hands. We meet her in Captain Marvel set in the 1990s. She's an Air Force pilot who gets caught in a Kree-Skrull war and ends up with superpowers. She's been off-world for a while, but Nick Fury calls her in during that post-credit scene.
Where's Fury?
After the blip, she sticks around to help out throughout the galaxy, and she's part of the new Avengers team, including Black Widow, Rhodey, Nebula, and Rocket. But she also got a lot of responsibilities in the wider universe, and she makes a grand entrance in Endgame, helping the Avengers in defeating Thanos. In the Marvels, she's back. She's teaming up with Monica Rambeau and Kamala. And just when you think the cosmic side of the MCU could not get any more intense, we leave from the adventures of Captain Marvel to the mind-bending realms of Doctor Strange. Now, Doctor Strange, he's a sorcerer supreme, the neurosurgeon turned master of the mystic arts, aka Stephen Strange. He can bend reality, travel through dimensions, and make you question everything. In the film, we see his transformation from a cocky guy who has to learn and embrace the power of magic. It's like a medical drama meets a trippy fantasy adventure, and it's full of mind-bending visuals. He becomes the protector of the Time Stone, one of the Infinity Stones, and he's a key player in the fight against Thanos in Infinity War. He even gets to face off against the Mad Titan on Titan, which is a pretty wild scene. And in Endgame, he helped, control the water. But just when you thought it could not get any more epic, we see him with Spider-Man in Spider-Man No Way Home, helping Peter with the spell to forget everyone who he is. Then in Multiverse of Madness, he's thrown headfirst into the chaos of the multiverse. He meets America Chavez and travel between realities, and he encounters a bunch of crazy variants. He even has to face off against the Scarlet Witch, and he's always there to protect the world from threats. And now, multiverse. Now we move into another character, an Avenger, and that is Falcon, aka Sam Wilson. He's a high-flying hero, the guy with the mechanical wings. He's Captain America's best friend, and he's always ready to fight for what's right, even if it means going against the government. So we first meet him in Captain America the Winter Soldier. He's an Air Force veteran who's using his skills to help others. He quickly becomes Captain America's right-hand man, and he proves himself to be a valuable ally, even though he doesn't have any superpowers other than those awesome wings. He officially becomes an Avenger in Age of Ultron. Then in Civil War, he stands by Captain America, even though it means going against the Sokovia Accords and becoming a fugitive. He even got arrested. He's dusted by Thanos in Infinity War, but he's back in Endgame to fight alongside the Avengers in the final battle.
Say it. Don't you say
On
it.
your left.
On your left.
After Steve Rogers goes back in time and chooses to stay in the past, he passes the shield and the mantle of Captain America to Sam Wilson, which is a story in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But I will discuss that in the new Avengers. Now we move into Hawkeye. So Hawkeye's journey as an Avenger is a bit different from the others. He's not a super soldier, he doesn't have a high-tech suit, and he cannot fly. But as we know, he's a master archer. And he's not the everyman hero, the guy that proves that you don't need superpowers to make a difference. We first meet Clint, aka Hawkeye, in Thor, but it's in the Avengers where his story really takes off. He's initially under Loki's mind control, which creates some really interesting conflict, but he eventually breaks free and joins the fight against Loki. But in Avengers Age of Ultron is where we really get a glimpse into Hawkeye's personal life. We discover that he's got a secret family, a wife, and kids hidden away from the world. Then we got the events of Captain America Civil War, where Hawkeye sides with Captain America against Iron Man, leading to some really intense action sequence. And of course, we cannot forget Avengers Endgame, where Hawkeye's story takes a really dark turn. He loses his family in the blip, and he's devastated. He goes down a dark path, becoming a vigilante called Ronin. It's a really heartbreaking transformation, but it shows us the depth of his grief and how even heroes can be broken by tragedy. But you know what? He eventually finds redemption, helping the Avengers bring back everyone. Now fast forward to the Hawkeye series, where we see how Clint passing the torch to Kate Bishop. His journey might be about the power of ordinary people. It's one that resonates with viewers, and let's see where his story goes next. Now we move into one of the original, and that is Hulk, aka Bruce Banner. He's the original monster, the guy who turns green and smashes things when he gets angry. But there's a lot more to Bruce Banner than just smashing. He's a brilliant scientist, but also a broken soul. We first meet him in The Incredible Hulk, and during that time he's played by Edward. He's a scientist who's trying to control his transformations, but things go sideways and he becomes a fugitive. He's gotta find a cure, avoid General Ross, and try to control the monster within. He joins the Avengers in the first film, and he's a key player in the Battle of New York, but he's always a bit of a wild card. You never know when he's going to lose it and Hulk out. But things get really messy in Age of Ultron when he and Tony Stark create Ultron, an AI that goes rogue. He ends up battling Iron Man in the Hulkbuster armor, and it's a real city-smashing showdown. After Sokovia, he's racked with guilt and disappears. It's in Thor Ragnarok where we see him as a different Hulk. He's been on Sakaar for a while, and he's actually enjoying being a gladiator. It's a bit of a shock because Bruce Banner has not had any control of the Hulk during this time. It's also kind of cool to see him embrace his power, but here's the twist. In Infinity War, he's unable to Hulk out, and he's forced to fight in the Hulkbuster suit. After the blip, he finds a way to merge his intelligence with Hulk's power, becoming sort of a Professor Hulk.
Put the brains and the brawn together. And now look at me. Damn.
But that's not the end of his story. In She-Hulk, we get to see him fully embrace his new personality or persona. And he's also got a new son. Name is Scar, and he's from Sakaar. But there's more to Hulk that we have not seen yet. We know that Captain America Brave New World is gonna introduce the Red Hulk, so maybe he's going to be in this film.
And are you allowed to talk about that?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's gonna be great.
Now the king himself and an OG Avenger, and that is Iron Man. So Iron Man, aka Tony Stark, is the genius billionaire playboy philanthropist who kick off the entire MCU. He's got the high-tech suits and a heart that's bigger than his ego. It's in Iron Man 2008 where he throws us into the world of Tony Stark, weapons manufacturer who gets kidnapped. He escapes by building a badass suit of armor, and he decides to use his tech to become a hero. He's got that I can do anything attitude, and he's not afraid to break the rules. In Iron Man 2, he's dealing with his own demons and his mortality, and he's just trying to figure out how to make his technology work for good. He then joins the Avengers in 2012 and plays a pivotal role in stopping Loki. He even flies a nuke. It's a moment that defines his heroism and shows that he's willing to sacrifice everything to save the world. We get more of his story in Iron Man 3 where he fights the Mandarin, and he's haunted by what he saw in New York. He then creates Ultron in Avengers Age of Ultron, hoping to build a global defense system. But Ultron goes rogue, and Tony has to face the consequences of his actions. We get more of this in Captain America Civil War, where he supports the Sokovia Accords, and he ends up fighting against Captain America. It's a clash of ideals that tears the Avengers apart. So after this, he takes Peter Parker under his wing. In Spider-Man Homecoming, he's acting as a mentor and a father figure. He sees a lot of himself in Peter, and he wants to help him avoid the same mistakes that he did. Then everything changed in Avengers Infinity War, where he has to fight against Thanos alongside the Guardians of the Galaxy, Spider-Man, and Doctor Strange. He's devastated by the snap. Then he makes the ultimate sacrifice, and he's trapped in space for weeks. In Avengers Endgame, he figures out time travel that helps the Avengers bring back everyone and makes the ultimate sacrifice to defeat Thanos. He snaps his fingers, wiping out Thanos and his army, but he dies in the process. It's a heroic end for a complex and flawed hero. He's the hero who started it all, and his legacy will continue to shape the MCU for years to come. Robert Downey Jr. is doomed, so we're gonna see more of this. Now Nebula. She's a cyborg assassin with a seriously messed up family history. She's got a chip on her shoulder, a whole lot of anger, and some badass cybernetic enhancements. But underneath that tough exterior, there's a heart that's trying to heal. We first meet her in Guardians of the Galaxy. She's working for Thanos alongside her sister Gamora. But their relationship is, let's just say, complicated. Thanos pushed them against each other. She turns against Thanos in Guardians of the Galaxy, and she's starting to find her own path. Then, in Infinity War, she joins the Avengers to fight Thanos, hoping to take him down and finally get revenge. But things go sideways, and she ends up trapped in space with Tony. It's a pretty insane situation. Then in Endgame, she helps the Avengers build a time machine and participates in the time heist. She even has to face off against her past self, which is a real mindbender. After the Battle of Earth, she continues to be with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and we see her story end in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Now, moving into Okoye. She's the general of the Dora Milaje, Wakanda all-female special forces. She's a badass warrior, loyal to her nation, and not afraid to throw down with anyone who goes against her king. We first meet her in Black Panther. She's fierce, she's disciplined, and she's got those incredible spear fighting skills. She fights in the Battle of Wakanda, showing her loyalty to T'Challa and her willingness to protect her nation. She also joins the Avengers after the blip, going on missions and reporting to Black Widow. In Wakanda Forever, we see her step up during the time of crisis.
Now I have seen everything.
Another Avenger, and my favorite, and that is Rocket. Raccoon.
Don't call me a raccoon!
He's a genetically engineered raccoon who got a mouth bigger than his blaster. He's a master genius, a weapons expert, and a total wildcard. He's basically a furry, trash-talking, grenade-launching badass. We first meet him in Guardians of the Galaxy with his friend Groot. He becomes part of the Guardians of the Galaxy, a group of cosmic misfits who save the universe. Then he joins Thor in his quest for Stormbreaker in Infinity War, and he fights alongside the Avengers in the Battle of Wakanda. He's one of the survivors of the snap and becomes a full-fledged Avenger during this time, reporting to Black Widow. We see his sad story in Guardians 3, and now he's a leader of the Guardians. I cannot wait to see Rocket Raccoon again. Now the queen herself, the Scarlet Witch, aka Wanda Maximoff. So she's a powerful sorceress with a seriously messed up past. She can warp reality, manipulate energy, and she's got a whole lot of emotional pain. She's gone from a villain to a hero and back again, and she's one of the most complex and compelling characters in the entire MCU. We first meet her in Avengers Age of Ultron along with her brother Quicksilver. They're both working with Ultron, who's basically a robot with daddy issues. At the end of the film, she joins Captain America's new team of Avengers, but it's not exactly smooth sailing. She struggles to control her powers, and her grief over the loss of her brother is a constant shadow. In Civil War, she chooses to side with Captain America against Iron Man, and she ends up becoming a fugitive. During this time, she falls in love with Vision, which is a seriously weird but also kind of sweet story. But then she's forced to kill him, and Thanos brings him back to life just to kill him again. It's a lot for anyone to handle, and Wanda already got a lot going on. It's in WandaVision where things get really interesting. She creates a whole sitcom reality in WandaVision to deal with her grief, but it's not exactly a happy ending. She becomes the Scarlet Witch, a mythical being of immense power, and she's still struggling with her own demons. In Doctor Strange, in the Multiverse of Madness, she's got a bit of power mad, and she's willing to do anything to find her kids that she created in WandaVision, even if it means destroying and killing other people. It's a dark turn for a character who's been through so much pain, and at the end, she dies. Let's see where her story goes next. Now let's discuss the king, Spider-Man. So Spider-Man, aka Peter Parker, he's a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, the kid from Queens who got bit by a radioactive spider and ended up with superpowers. He's got that classic awkward teenager vibe, but he's also a total badass when it comes to fighting crime. We first meet him in Captain America Civil War, but his real origin story is in Spider-Man Homecoming. He's trying to figure out how to balance his high school life with superhero duties, and he's got Tony Stark acting as a kind of mentor figure, which can be a bit overwhelming. He goes against the Vulture, who's basically a guy who's turned to crime to provide for his family. It's a classic good versus evil story, but it's also a coming-of-age story for Peter. He learns about the responsibility of power and the importance of making sacrifices. This is where things get really interesting. So in Far From Home, Spider-Man is dealing with the aftermath of Endgame, and he's trying to figure out how to move on after the loss of Tony Stark. He also has to face off against Mysterio, who's a master of illusion and manipulation. At the end of the film, Mysterio reveals Peter Parker's identity, which takes us into No Way Home. It's where things get really wild. In Spider-Man No Way Home, his identity is revealed to the world, and he has to deal with the consequences. He also encounters villains from other universes, including the Green Goblin, Doc Ock, the Lizard, and Electro. It's a multiversal mashup, and it's a real tearjerker. And at the end, nobody knows who Peter is, and his identity is now a secret. Now let's move into the God of Thunder. He's the Asgardian prince with a magic hammer and a flowing mane of hair, well, sometimes, and a hunger for adventure. He's gone from an arrogant, hammer-happy warrior to a wise and battle-scarred hero, and he's always good for a laugh, even when he's struggling with a midlife crisis. In Thor, he's stripped of his powers and banished to Earth and figure out what it means to be a